Hey everyone, welcome to Video Game Experience, VGXP. Today we're going to take a dive into the niche world of VR gaming, to check its pulse, and to see where it might be heading from here. Now, look, I might be a little biased when it comes to this topic. I do consider myself somewhat of a VR enthusiast. I've been active in the space since what I'd call the golden era of the PSVR1's life cycle. Hell, even simply mentioning the phrase VR party games surely awoken some form of collective PTSD within my family's souls, after it had been mentioned a million times over the pandemic. But to really understand where I'm coming from, we might as well all take a little mind trip back to 2018. This was a simpler time. It was a time when Bethesda still decided they wanted to make VR games, and I was able to finally buy Skyrim VR for the PSVR1 on the base PS4. Mind you, I had absolutely no financial literacy at the time. But I had a dream. That dream was to save scum my way through Whiterun, slaughtering the entire town over and over and over and over again on novice difficulty, with the enhanced freedom of virtual reality. I mean, it's the least I could do for my beloved Isolda. A whole town to ourselves, free from the prying eyes. Eyes that would discourage me from taking what little coin my two adopted children had found in the street while I was away on my adventures. Long story short, VR quickly became more than just a way to play games. It became a social experience for me. Watching other people experience VR for the first time was often more entertaining than actually playing it myself. And as a teen, I didn't really understand the concept of a gentle introduction to VR. So naturally, my mom's first experience was the Resident Evil 7 kitchen demo. I mean, come on, what a great first experience she had. Being tied to a chair in a dark room, and receiving the world's most feral lap dance from a much younger version of the old lady from Legion.
Shut up, you stupid All you do is complain, complain, complain!
What?
At the time, it did seem like a great idea, but it wasn't. But looking back, I now realize that experiences like those were the ones I remembered and appreciated the most. Almost more so than pulling off my very first getaway during the London heist. That PSVR1 purchase set off somewhat of a chain reaction, leading to a MetaQuest 2, which led to a Valve Index, leading to a PSVR2, and then finally, a Quest 3. It's safe to say I'm well accustomed to this form of play, even if it hasn't become my favorite way to play. But I appreciate having it as an option. An escape from the sameness that dominates so many flat-screen AAA games today. As exciting as the past few years have been, I can't help but feel that VR scene has slowed down. To be fair, that's not unique to VR. The entire games industry is still finding its footing after the pandemic slapped its ham all over the communal world table. But outside of the hardcore VR community, it feels like the topic of virtual reality is often met with a kind of collective sigh from the broader gaming community. Every few months, a Sony State of Play rolls around, and we're almost guaranteed at least one snippet from an upcoming VR title. Sometimes, it feels like Sony is doing the bare minimum to remind people that PSVR2 even exists. But I mean, at least they're keeping it visible? The latest surprise, Microsoft Flight Simulator, coming to PSVR2. Yes, Microsoft, the most popular publisher on the PlayStation Store, bringing one of their flagship experiences to PlayStation VR. While we're talking about flying, who can forget Aces the Thunder? A game that unfortunately received the classic PlayStation Store treatment. No game is ever safe on there. If you know, you know. I could probably make a whole video solely focused on the PlayStation Store. That shouldn't be a thing. You'll know it's getting really bad if we ever get a State of the PlayStation Store in 2025 video. I mean, that's probably already been made at this point. And I mean, for the love of God, why can't we just copy literally anything the great prophet Gabe Newell does? I mean, Steam is a proven template. It just works. PlayStation, please, 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 just use it. Still, through all of this, it's clear that VR is alive. Whether through the goodwill from developers like IO Interactive with Hitman VR, or maybe some mysterious Sony wizard quietly casting Game-O-Fundo on these projects behind the scenes. New VR games are still being made. But for every excited VR fan, there's another flat screen player groaning about exclusivity. When Meta announced Batman Arkham Shadow, exclusively for the Quest 3, it was a huge win for VR. Easily one of the best designed VR games I've ever played. But still, another return to a beloved franchise locked behind a headset. But I also think that the YouTube comments on that trailer would have definitely been a little kinder if Suicide Squad had been a single-player Arkham game instead. The players are hungry, and they didn't deliver. But that's a whole other can of worms. I truly believe that one of the most effective ways to boost VR adoption is through the hybrid approach. Games that can be played both flat screen and in VR. Look at the Resident Evil series, or Hitman 3, No Man's Sky, even Minecraft on PC. These are iconic flat screen games that already people love, and providing an enhanced way to experience them in VR feels like a total no-brainer. Not to mention, a cost-effective strategy for expanding the market. Imagine if Sony had a small internal division dedicated purely to adding VR support to its top franchises. Spider-Man VR, Uncharted VR, God of War VR, The Last of Us VR, Stellar Blade VR. That's the dream. The best of both worlds. Players could buy into a consistent ecosystem full of quality releases while avoiding the frustration of FOMO. Because even if you don't have a headset, you can still play the game on your TV. And after that, if you're still hungry for more, you'll know there's an enhanced way to play in VR. Now, to be clear, built from the ground up VR experiences are equally important. They're essential for actual true innovation within the VR space. But for developers hesitant to take the plunge, a hybrid model could be the bridge they need. And for headset manufacturers, funding these cross-platform projects would help de-risk what's still a niche market. A shining example here is Flat to VR Studios, whose names you've probably seen all over Steam and the PlayStation Store lately. Their entire mission is converting existing flat-screen titles into fully playable VR experiences. Honestly, I think they're doing God's work. They're one of the few who are actually genuinely making a difference in this space. And I mean, Poppy's playtime, come on, that's sure to win a few flat-screen hearts over. So, all of this sounds promising, right? Great indie releases, AAA titles still showing up, a loyal, passionate community. Why hasn't VR taken off yet? Why isn't it mainstream? There are a few obvious factors: price and motion sickness. But we've heard those arguments before, and yeah, they're completely valid. But the biggest hurdle, in my opinion, form factor. We've come a long way from PSVR1's tangled mess of wires and breakout boxes, and the creepy base stations the Valve Index. But let's be honest, no VR headset is truly comfortable. No matter what I'm using, MetaQuest with a Bobo VR strap, PSVR2, Index, after an hour or two, I'm ready to pop it off. Until headsets are wireless, lightweight, and take less than 5 seconds to throw on and start playing, VR won't reach mainstream adoption. I have no problem with the wire. I just know it's a problem for many. And when we do get there, those first models are going to cost a fortune, because fitting powerful components and long-lasting batteries into smaller designs ain't cheap. The other problem is that too many VR games play it safe. Far too often, they just feel like variations of the same idea. Same movement systems, same story structures, same limited scopes. At some point, developers need to accept that unless they start pushing the envelope, most VR games are destined to sit in that 7 to 8 out of 10 comfort zone forever. It's time to experiment more. Games like Hellsweeper with its radical movement system, full of flips and chaotic movement, or Hitman VR, it's got the sandbox storytelling, deep interactivity. These show what's possible when developers actually innovate. But I think a lot of studios are scared of alienating players who haven't built their VR legs yet. To that I say phooey. There are plenty of games already designed for newcomers. They'll find their footing eventually. But not every new VR release needs to hold their hand. I do think allowing as many players to play as possible is totally important, but that should be something destined for an option menu. VR games are a prime example of why accessibility options are incredibly important. But once those developer concerns start dictating the scope of the game design, I think there's a real problem. And you know what? Now that we're on the topic of scope, we might as well talk MetaQuest. I love my Quest. Doesn't it feel like most games coming out on PSVR2 or PCVR look and feel like Quest ports? You can't really blame the developers though. There was a time when it felt like everyone on Earth owned a Quest 2. And while that's obviously an exaggeration, a lot of those headsets were gifts, often to kids perfectly happy spending hours in Gorilla Tag, and not exactly interested in paying $40 for a story-driven VR title. So even though the Quest market share looks massive on paper, the audience for premium experiences is much smaller than it seems. No matter how impressive Zuck's athletic prowess, it still doesn't convince me that the majority of the Quest audience skews more towards the casual and younger side of things. An audience who historically only purchases a maximum of 1 to 3 games per year. 2 of those probably being their favorite sports game and, Call of Duty. Recently though, many developers have even said that their games are selling better on other platforms, like PSVR2 or PC. But it's a tough spot. Skipping the Quest means ignoring the largest audience, but targeting it means limiting your game's ambition. There's no proven right way to do things. Developers either choose to bet on red or black, and the slightest shift in gaming landscape decides whether they sing or squawk. And without the big outside funding that used to flow freely during the early Oculus days, studios are hesitant to take that risk. Much of that investment has shifted elsewhere, towards safer bets like Concord and other, I can't even say that. Concord. Anyway, until that changes, the VR industry is going to keep feeling like it's in survival mode. Now, even though I do speak fondly about VR, I don't want to sound like a fanboy. For everything I love about the medium, there's an equal dose of frustration. But I do truly believe in VR. At some point, maybe not next year, maybe not even the next 10 years, it's gonna become something special. So, where do we go from here? Rumor has it, Valve's new headset is entering mass production this month. Though to be fair, I've heard that line countless times before. Still, it comes at a great time. PCVR has been gaining traction again, and a new headset from Valve could inject some much needed excitement into the scene. But more than manufacturers and publishers, it's the actual community that has the real power to keep VR alive. In such a niche space, community enthusiasm can literally shape the industry's direction. Here's a really good example. Through the relentless push of the PSVR2 community, the Binary Mill announced Rush VR Apex Edition as a PSVR2 exclusive. There's even been talk of the return of a VR classic, the Brookhaven experiment, originally only envisioned to release on Quest by the developers, but now they've been flirting with the PSVR2 fandom after some collective shout. That wouldn't have happened without the fans. These are the kinds of impacts a small, passionate audience can have. Developers are listening. Just keep talking. Support studios when they release quality games. You don't have to buy every VR title, but wishlist them. Join the conversations on social media. It all helps. Many VR developers are in survival mode, living off the smallest margins, but still focusing on VR because they know what the future holds, whenever that may come. Celebrate all of the wins, even if they don't happen on the platform that you play on. It's time for VR platform warriors to perform metaphorical seppuku and accept the fact that good things are only going to come to them if the developers continue to succeed elsewhere. This ecosystem is already somewhat fragile. Don't contribute to the pollution. It's true. It should not feel like a chore to support a peripheral you've spent hundreds of dollars on. It's not fair. But you're gonna do it anyway, aren't ya? And if this is you, thank you. It's cool to be a part of something where players have so much tug towards the direction of this space's future. Right now I'm playing through Metro Awakening. It's been great, though I can't help but think they could have shaved off a few of the loading screens if it wasn't developed with mobile hardware in mind. No hate to the Quest though, I do love mine. This is just my warm-up before diving into Madison VR for Halloween. I still can't believe I'm actually gonna be doing that. Anyway, that's all for now. If you enjoyed this, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. I've had an absolute blast rambling about VR, and I'd love to continue the conversation down in the comments below. Thanks for tuning into VGXP. I'll catch you on the flippity flop.